Well, Cyclops fans, this is going to be the last 2023 episode. Here we are heading into the marina to fill up the fuel tank. The boat has two 90-liter fuel tanks, but I never got around to putting any fuel in the starboard tank, just to avoid getting diesel bug. So now, with the port tank needing a bit of fuel, I want to get it topped up to 100%. A full fuel tank should prevent diesel bug. Diesel bug is a type of organism that actually eats diesel, but it needs to live in a layer of diesel and water. And so if the tank's full, less chance of condensation, less chance of having the layer of water, and less chance of having the bug. Or so it goes. It sure looks like I get very close to the dock. But that's the problem with the camera work. It just doesn't show that gap between the boat and the dock. Also, as you get used to the boat, you get a lot of confidence in its ability to stop when going in reverse. With one line attached to the stern and the motor in forward, the boat magically comes alongside the dock. This is such a cool trick. However, I wonder if it would work better with a spring line from the middle of the boat to the stern. Anyway, I'm used to the stern to a stern cleat. We begin fueling with two locals watching our behavior quite closely. I shut down the engine, open up the fuel cap, and ready the process for Gale to arrive with the fuel pump. These things always take longer than you think. The boat has two fuel gauges. The first, very high-tech, shows up on the chart plotter so I can monitor how the filling process is going. The second, the oldest technology of all, is just walking down below and looking at the translucent tank to see if there's a lot of gas in it. Fueling is done. It's time to figure out how we're going to leave the dock. Boat fuel caps can be opened with a specific handle or also a winch handle. Wonder if you knew that. We first converted the stern line into a there and back so it can be released from somebody inside the boat. Then I used the engine to pin the boat against the dock so we no longer need any of the bow lines or spring lines. Gale, at her leisure, releases those lines, and then finally I pivot the boat off the dock using the thruster. After the thruster has rotated the boat substantially, the wind gently rotates her even more. This is a great time to put the engine in neutral, and Gale can release the stern line.
Merci.
Okay, now I'm going to share a situation where I was a bit of a bonehead. After the fuel dock exit, there is a well-traveled ferry route. I was having fun chatting about our success in docking and fueling and such, and had failed to notice a ferry that was passing quite close to the marina. She honked her horn, and I immediately did an emergency turn to get out of her way. Lesson learned, always be vigilant, and ferries are possibly the most dangerous vessels afloat after fishing boats. Our haul-out date and time were registered a month in advance. Closer to haul-out date, I realized why this scarce slot was wide open. It was springs and between the tides. That means the current going through the haul-out zone would be its strongest, at over a knot, and you can see it is not a short run to get in there. The scary part about boat haul-outs for me is not the spontaneous dropping of a boat, but rather the straps that go underneath the boat catching something that it shouldn't. For example, a propeller, a rudder, or a depth sensor. All went smoothly here in Lorient. The blue crane-like vehicle is called a travel hoist, and typically a travel hoist takes the boat to its final parking space, where the boat then is placed on stands. However, in Lorient, they did it differently. The travel hoist only takes you out of the water and immediately drops you onto a cradle. And then that cradle is moved not by the travel hoist, but by a mini cart. How cool is that? It allows the travel hoist to take more boats out of the water in each day. So how does this work? It's kind of similar to an airport where the little tug that pulls your plane. In this case, the front portion, right under the bow, that's rather cubic, has a motor in it, and that motor has complete remote control. And The employee walks around with the remote control quite close to the boat, navigating all the hazards of the yard. And it's not a short journey. It's about a 10-minute walk from where the boat comes out of the water to where she will rest for the remainder of the winter. The space I was assigned to was so tight. It took the operator 15 minutes of moving the boat backwards and forwards in the smallest increments to finally get her into her spot. Now she can rest for the winter. I profusely complimented the operator's skill in parking Cyclops. The crane operator's final trick was to have his cart kneel, and as it knelt, it allowed my cradle to support the boat, and he drove away. Well, this is the yard I'm going to be parked in, and it's just so cool. Look how many Figaros there are here. These are boats which are 30-some feet long and have foilers. And then over here, there's got to be 30 in the back row of the minis. And then over in this section are the JPK race boats. And soon will be one little humble JPK cruising boat.
Ce qui est normal. Dans la conjoncture dans laquelle on est. Et écoute, le bateau est très haut là, normalement.
So, this is not your typical fender. Sticks out a bunch because it is trying to protect a foil. Only in France can you buy a foil protecting fender in your standard marine store. This race boat is named Linked Out, which is a pun on LinkedIn and is a charity helping homeless people get jobs. Notice those black bars sticking out at deck level. They're known as deck spreaders because the mast rotates and can't have more traditional spreaders. Enough drooling on the mighty race boats. Here's an example of opening and closing the bow thruster on Cyclops. Good way to make sure everything's in good order. I checked that the anode was in good condition and the propeller blades had not been damaged, or that there was any other flotsam inside the machinery.
Après une minute, le season commence. Et voilà, ça c'est les seasons. Ça c'est les batteries. Ils marchent très bien maintenant. Et les autres batteries.
Let's reflect on our first season aboard Cyclops, where we watch seagulls fight over a recently captured clam. Firstly, I'm very happy with the boat choice. Yes, I haven't sailed her a ton yet, but initial data is really promising. Secondly, the yard has been so helpful. I know they have a bunch of items on the punch list to fix over the winter, but they really have tried to help me as much as possible. And third, and maybe most important, is the people of Brittany have gone out of their way to be wonderful hosts, and they have a great part of the world to live in. See you next season as we do more France, and the boat ends up going to the Channel Islands and finally Plymouth, England. Hope to see you out there sailing.